Am I still waiting, Prabhuji?
Hare Krishna, you can start.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Srinvatam Svagata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Vidyantasto Hyapatrani Vidhunoti Suritsatam Nashta Preshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttame Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Read him from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 4, verses 12 and 13. Verse 12. Doshan parisham higuneshu sadhavo Trinanti kechina pavhadrisho tvija Namscha palgun bahuli karishnavo Mahatamaste shavitad bhavanagam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Twice-born Daksha, a man like you can simply find fault in the qualities of others. Lord Shiva, however, not only finds no fault with others' qualities, but if someone has a little good quality, he magnifies it greatly. Unfortunately, you have found fault, such a great soul. Purport. King Daksha is addressed here by his daughter Sati as Dvija, twice-born. Twice-born refers to the higher classes of men, namely the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. In other words, a Dvija is not an ordinary man, but one who has studied the Vedic literature from a spiritual master and can discriminate between good and bad. Therefore, it is supposed that if he understands logic and philosophy, Sati, Daksha's daughter, put before him sound arguments. There are some highly qualified persons who accept only the good qualities of others. Just as a bee is always interested in the honey and the flower and does not consider the thorn or the colors, highly qualified persons who are uncommon accept only the good qualities of others, not considering their bad qualities, whereas the common man can judge what are good qualities and what are bad qualities. Among the uncommonly good souls, there are still gradations, and the best good soul is one who accepts an insignificant asset of a person and magnifies that good quality. Lord Shiva is also called Ashutosha, which refers to one who is satisfied very easily and who offers to any person the highest level of benediction. For example, once a devotee of Lord Shiva wanted the benediction that whenever he touched someone on the head, that person's head would at once be separated from his trunk. Lord Shiva agreed. Although the benediction asked was not very commendable because the devotee wanted to kill his enemy, Lord Shiva considered the devotee's good quality in worshiping and satisfying him and granted the benediction. Thus, Lord Shiva accepted his bad qualities as magnificently good qualities. But Sati accused her father, "You are just the opposite. Although Lord Shiva has so many good qualities and no bad qualities at all, you've accepted him as bad and found fault with him. And because of your accepting his good qualities to be bad, instead of your becoming the most exalted soul, you have become the most fallen. A man becomes the greatest soul by accepting the goodness of others' qualities, but by unnecessarily considering others' good qualities to be bad, you have become the lowest of fallen souls." Text 13. Nashcharyamita yada satsu sarvada Mahad vininda kuna patma vadishu Sershayam mahapurusha pada pam shubhir Nirasta tejasu tadiva shobhanam. Translation. It is not wonderful for persons who have accepted the transient material body as the self to engage always in deriding great souls. Such envy on the part of materialistic persons is very good because that is the way they fall down. They are diminished by the dust of the feet of great personalities. Purport. Everything depends on the strength of the recipient. For example, due to scorching sunshine, many vegetables and flowers dry up, and many grow luxuriantly. Thus, it is the recipient that causes growth and dwindling. Similarly, Mahiyasam pada rajo bhishikam. The dust of the lotus feet of great personalities offers all good to the recipient, but the same dust can also do harm. Those who are offenders at the lotus feet of a great personality dry up. Their godly qualities diminish. A great soul may forgive offenses, but Krishna does not excuse offenses to the dust of that great soul's feet. Just as one can tolerate the scorching sunshine on one's head, but cannot tolerate the scorching sunshine on one's feet. An offender glides down more and more. Therefore, he naturally continues to commit offenses at the feet of the great soul. Offenses are generally committed by persons who falsely identify with the impermanent body. King Daksha was deeply engrossed in a misconception because he identified the body with the soul. He offended the lotus feet of Lord Shiva because he thought that his body, being the father of the body of Sati, was superior to Lord Shiva's. Generally, less intelligent men misidentify in that way, and they act in the bodily concept of life. Thus, they are subject to commit more and more offenses at the lotus feet of great souls. One who has such a concept of life is to consider to be in the class of animals like cows and horses. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhuktale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Dejatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Vaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I bow myself and seek blessings from all assembled devotees, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to purify myself. Please forgive me for any shortcomings. For my notes today, I'm summarizing some themes from His Grace Madhu Pandit Das. So here, Sati has openly pointed out the good qualities of Lord Shiva, and this is in response to Daksha's non-welcoming behavior. Right? He's the father. He's not welcomed her with love. He's not happy that she's come, and she knows why it's happening too. It's not because, in this case, father is angry with daughter, but because he has a problem with Lord Shiva. So now Sati's standing here in front of the assembly, and she's pointing out the good qualities of Shiva. She's defending him as a pure devotee. And she's talking about a really rare and beautiful quality that Shiva has. Imagine this. He doesn't find fault in others. Instead, if he sees just a little bit of good, he amplifies that quality. And that is what the perspective of a pure devotee is. And as it's said here, that seed is so rare, right? Common men can judge what qualities are good and what qualities are bad, but as far as advanced consciousness is concerned, a pure devotee always sees the good qualities and amplifies them, and they don't give much value to those bad qualities. So that's the general perspective of a pure devotee. Let's think of an example of Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so he came to America. He came to the hippies he attracted, right? So the hippies, this was a group of people that were they were actively checking out of everything. They were arguably seeking higher happiness, right? They were disimpassioned with the modern world. They were rejecting a lot of the material systems that we in the West are all kind of brainwashed with from birth. But of course, the hippies back then, they weren't doing it through pure spirituality, but they were doing it through different material intentions, right? They were doing it through sex and free love and drugs. But in the hippies, Prabhupada didn't see what the rest of America saw, right? At that time, the rest of the country saw hippies as these dirty people, these useless people, no desire to work, no contribution to society. Prabhupada instead saw the good qualities in this group. He saw the spiritual potential in this group, and he accepted the good qualities, and he fanned those flames. And that's what Vaishnavas believe. If you fan the flames of the good qualities, then the bad qualities will smolder away. But we should clarify something because it could be confusing. We're not saying that we ignore completely bad qualities. So let's clarify that, right? Prabhupada, of course, he corrected his disciples when they needed it. Just like at work, if we're a boss and we grow our team by accentuating their strengths, but we help them manage the activities that are detrimental or harmful to the mission. Or at home, if we're parents, we'll highlight our kids' strengths, and we nurture them when they make mistakes, right? So we're not talking about ignoring these negative qualities, but our roles as devotees require us to coach and to nurture, right? Our roles don't require us to judge others on their negative qualities. So that's the difference between showing your child how to clean their room better versus, telling them, oh, you never clean your room, right? You're such a messy person, right? The first is nurturing. The second is judgment. We nurture, but we have to practice that non-judgment. Because, the reality is that each and every one of us has good qualities, and each and every one of us has negative qualities too. So that question again was, are pure devotees not seeing reality? No. Just like we talked about with Prabhupada, even though pure devotees see reality, they weigh the good and the bad qualities different. So for example, the spiritual master will amplify the good qualities so that the devotee's spiritual self-worth will grow, which will allow any destructive qualities to fade away. So in this sense, we should clarify that the good qualities are the ones that support our devotion to Krishna. Now, each and every one of us has a feeling of self-worth, right? And a businessman, they could find their self-worth in being a wealthy man, right? An athlete can find their self-worth in her performance on the field. A devotee's self-worth comes from being satisfied in their own efforts and their own advancement in Krishna consciousness. It's not karmi self-worth. This is a different kind. It's a version where we're getting our self-worth by learning the true nature of our souls. So the businessman gets his self-worth from being wealthy, the athlete from their performance. But what happens when a businessman loses on a big investment? And what happens when an athlete tears their ACL, right? Depression, anger. Sometimes they even start in destructive habits that make it hard for them to get back to the position they were at before. But devotees understand that seeking self-worth in the material world is the exact recipe for misery. We own our actions, yeah, but the one who puts their self-worth in the material world is also trying to steal the results of their actions. And as Krishna told us in the Bhagavad Gita, this binds us to material existence. This keeps our karma running. Now, this type of self-worth from the material world, it's very common for obvious reasons. You think about all of the conditioning we receive from family, from television, from the internet. I mean, by the time we're 10 years old, how many millions of messages do you think we've received telling us that our happiness comes from money, it comes from things, it comes from our looks, it comes from our relationships, it comes from our power? And compare that to the relatively few times that most people hear about true and everlasting happiness and contentment, and how it comes from spiritual self-worth and devotional service, not material self-worth. So we want to reach that platform of a pure devotee. We want to reach the platform of never having to be envious of other persons. We want to be able to walk out the door and only see good qualities in everybody. Now, so for me, like most people before coming to Krishna consciousness, I openly judged people's negative qualities, and I did it without reservation. Now, being in it for 9 months, I'd say, I still judge, but now I have reservations about it. Now I catch myself either in the act or shortly after the act. So, it's getting better. We still have plenty of moments where I judge unconsciously, but there's moments too where I become very aware very quickly that I'm in the middle of having a judgment on something. And so when we notice that we've done something that doesn't align with devotional service, that can be a blessing. Because with more grace, it won't be after we've done a judgment that we notice it. With more grace, we're going to start to notice judgment when it forms in our throat. And with even more grace, we'll start to notice judgment when the seed plants in our mind. And over time, with more grace, our judgments, hopefully they'll just never happen. And imagine how freeing that will be to be able to navigate our spiritual existence without judgment of others. But it does come by grace. And until we have that grace from Guru and God, we have to keep setting the table by reading the wisdom of Prabhupada, forming devotional service, and by reflecting on these impure qualities that we have, and by challenging ourselves to make those gradual improvements on them every day. And so I'll conclude here.